It's so rare for me to stand in front of you here at Pitt Street and to speak at length about the life of Jesus. And I'm aware that for some of you this is not particularly welcome, but I feel so strongly that his message was one of universality. And again, when I was thinking about being with you today and thinking about the Christmas story, I was so struck by the notion that there was no room at the inn for Mary and Joseph just hours before this child was born. There was literally no room at the inn. And if this story or this part of the story survives for any good reason, then perhaps it draws our attention to the urgent need for each of us to express love through our hospitality to one another, through our hospitality to those parts of ourselves that we would like to fracture or fragment or throw away or disown, but that actually we can be courageous enough to bring into the light. That tiny baby would not have known there was no room for him at the inn, nor that his worldly parents were not yet or barely married, nor that he was Jewish in a world dominated and colonized by Rome, nor that he would become an itinerant teacher, friend to the most marginalized, and that above everything, he would point us towards transformation of our inner sense of possibility, our inner sense of purpose, towards a renewed and sublime understanding of love. At Christmas, whatever our culture, we wish peace for one another. We wish for the peace that comes with wholeness as well as holiness. We wish for the reclaiming of the disowned parts of ourselves and the disowned members of our human family. We wish for a bright star to arrive in the sky, showing us the light that is beyond suffering, the light that is beyond grief, the light that is beyond death. We long for the star that tells us love lives. But how can it live other than through us, through our decisions to wear its cloak, to have it in our hearts, to express it in our smallest gestures, our patience, our kindness, our appreciation, our good humor. The great Sufi teacher, Hazrat Inayat Khan, who called Jesus, by the way, Murshid of Murshids, teacher of teachers, writes, "One human family lives in different lands but under one sky. We have many churches and temples and mosques, but one divine. We have many scriptures, but one wisdom. We are many souls, but one spirit. All our wisdom comes from a single source." It is so easy. It is so easy to hear that as exquisite poetry, but not let it come into the ground of our being and shape our choices in our daily lives. That's my Christmas wish for you, that it would shape your choices in your daily life. It's also easy in preparing a talk like this in 2011, the very end of 2011, with a 21st century consciousness, and especially with the love and gratitude I have for all of the traditions, to bemoan the terrible chasm that exists between that inclusive welcome of love and the horrors of exclusive thinking that have characterized so much of the history of Christianity. I do bemoan this. Like you, I could weep that that radical, uncluttered message of love could have been so dishonored. Yet, without excusing any of those horrors, I must also see, I must ask myself to see how they represent the ignorance that is also part of our familiar, fallible human condition. How easy it would be to stay in a place of self-righteousness or even contempt. But what a loss of opportunity that would be for transformation of view. Those, too, are members of our human family. Those, too, are deserving of our love, even when we abhor their views. Ignorance is a term much used by the Buddhists, and it is a profound one. It was also to save us from our ignorance of who we are and what we are becoming, that we can freely offer one another love. That Jesus taught not an exclusive group of rabbis or scholars, but those who had most reason to be bitter, most reason to be angry, most reason to be unforgiving. And yet, through his example, through the exquisite beauty of his presence, through his being love, those people were able to find in life the sweetness, the hope, the peace that truly surpasses all human understanding. Is it true, asks the great poet Hafiz, is it true that our destiny is to turn into light itself? One last thing. Unless you become as little children, you will not recognize your place in the divine universe. In other words, set aside your prejudices. Set aside your limiting habits of thinking, your stereotyping, your assumptions, your habits of mind, so that freshly, not naively, but freshly, you can see one another in the truth of your shining soul's existence. Perhaps it is our destiny to turn into light itself. I'm going to read you a short and beautiful piece that was written in 1935 by Rabbi Abraham Isaac Kook from the Jewish tradition. There is one whose soul expands until it extends beyond the border of the spiritual land we know as Israel, singing the song of humanity. In the glory of the entire human family, in the glory of the human form, his spirit spreads, aspiring to the highest goals of humankind, envisioning its consummation. Then there is one who expands even further until he unites with all existence, with all creatures, with all worlds, singing a song with them all. There is one who ascends with all these songs in unison, the song of the soul, the song of the people, the song of humanity, the song of the cosmos, resounding together, blending in harmony, circulating the sap of life and the sound of holy joy.